you're doing really well. Welcome to Phoenix History. Welcome to something very special, interesting and unique. But there's more to it than just this. And you've probably seen it maybe as we're sort of coming around. We're at Spider Castle Farm. What a cracking name today. On the Isle of Sheppey. And this is a permission visit, by the way. Now you can access these if you would like to camp here, outdoor camping. I'm not for today. I'm purely here for historical documentation purposes. And we're going to see really what this was about. And then we're going to sort of talk about it, open-mindedness. The records give us a fairly good clue, but I think sometimes in these types of instances, because it's so unique, this design, I've never seen anything like this, it does bring up a lot of interesting debate amongst people with their pillboxes and observation posts. But there's something else we're going to explore as well. So this is going to be quite a nice little video, World War I based. This is a World War I theme today. Hopefully you enjoy it. And yeah, permission visit. Thank you to the owners of Spider Castle Farm for allowing me exclusive access to do this. But like I said, you can come down if you want to. If you want to camp out, you can check these out as well. But yeah, let's do it. Come on. Welcome back, everybody. Did you miss me? Oh, bless you. We're on a very windy day today, but it's understandable because, to be fair, we're right on top of literally overhanging cliffs in Sheerness on the Isle of Sheppey. I'll get my teeth in, which would be also handy. What we're going to do today is I'm just going to reverse. So over there you can wonderfully see with the hand of the finger of doom, which obviously helps. That is definitely a World War I pillbox. This, however, which we're going to check out, by the way, this, however, is a little bit more interesting. Now, before we go in, I want to talk to you. I never claim that I'm a historical expert by any means, but I do love my history, and I have certain periods of time which I think I'm probably more acutely knowledgeable on than others. This is labelled, which what kind of really excited me and what got me down here really. This is labelled as a World War I observation post. And that excites me because we've never done that. And if that is the case, that is probably one of the rarest things you can find. Now we have also, and I'll put a link down below, done World War I pillboxes. Not actually too far away from here. And we're lucky in Kent that we have World War I pillboxes. For the rarity of which they are, because they are very rare, everybody. So to be in proximity of an observation post potentially and another World War I pillbox is very interesting. Now, what makes this even more interesting, because I haven't looked yet, so I'm kind of going to take you along with me, is where the embrasures for the gun loops for the World War I pillbox, which is definitely World War I, over there, are aiming. Because I don't think I could. I'm just curious, because the observation post is sort of pointing across rather than in front, which is also rather strange and very interesting. Now the cliff we're on the Isle of Sheppey. For those who know, the erosion is terrible around here, and unfortunately it seems to be getting worse on a seasonal basis, is probably the best way of saying it. So, and we've covered that actually on the Chain Home site of Sheerness, which is in the water. And it's been in the water for quite a while, where there was a landslip and it pretty much took a lot of that history away. This, interestingly enough, still stands, and a lot of history has unfortunately from the Isle of Sheppey fallen into the sea. So the fact that it still remains is remarkable. Now, I'm going to commit and say, dun dun dun, this is an observation post. The World War I side of things, I'm going to be very speculative on just for a second. I've not actually been in, so here we go. I had to clear a tree out. Yes, that tree there. You probably noticed it on the beginning. I was like, no, I'm clearing it out. So, as you can see, it's been visited by a lot of people. So, let's not say that this is... In fact, actually, when I say a lot of people, a lot of campers and locals. I'm just going to chuck my torch out. I didn't think I should need that. Thankfully, I am kindly enough being able to park right outside of this, which is also very handy. Now, clearly there was a platform here. Do I dare stand on it? I do dare stand on it. This is exciting. I'm going to do a bit of balancing for you with one hand. 1, 2, 3. There we go. Look at that. Skills. My ballerina skills have come into play. Look at that, everybody. Nimble as ever at my age. Let's not talk about my age. I'm trying to make this a little bit of a explore because I'm very excited. So, if it's a gun emplacement, it's probably the most unique gun emplacement I've probably ever seen anyway, which would obviously make it very unique. You've got a slanted roof here as well. I'm almost certain that the labelling of this, which is labelled as an observation post, is pretty correct, I would say. Again, it's been labelled. I've seen a couple of records on this, and as I always say on my channel, I don't look at just one record to see, because I think that's naivety on a historical part. We're a historical channel, or as best as we can be. So it just sort of feels a bit weird that you've got this and it just sort of feels a bit out of place. And the embrasure itself, or the gun loop, if it was a gun loop, is very thin and wide. Now, we'll talk about that later, because a lot of people like to debate the idea of what denominates as an observation post and a pillbox. The fact of the matter is, simply historical terms, pillboxes would have been used as observation anyway, but not necessarily exclusively as observation posts, because they were defensive in nature. So let's just clarify that for everybody. But the fact that this has been labelled as an observation post, it's been labelled as World War One. Now, I'm not saying it's not, but when I first looked at it, I was like, very World War Two to me. But either way, it fits so nicely with the World War One pillbox, which is also very, very handy. So, there you go, everybody. We're going to say it's a World War One pillbox. We're also going to try and get the camera a little bit more level. A little bit wonky then, because I jumped. Yes, interesting. Never seen anything like it, so I can't necessarily refer to comparing it to anything, which is also interesting for me. I tried to look on the internet to see if there's anything comparable. There really wasn't. You can see, though, however, there is a platform there, or was a platform, and it was looking out, and then it's got this beautiful slantedness to it. So we're going to say observation post. We're going to say what the two other records have said, because, you know, then I don't exclusively feel like I've been in trouble then, do I, by all the YouTube viewers? I basically said what has been on the research, and therefore people's research, not my research. My research with the research. Double research. Sorry, I'm really excited about this. I just am, because I've never seen anything like it. Beautiful construction, almost entirely concrete. In fact, it purely is concrete. And it's really substantial, and it's got a beautiful viewing slot anyway. So, right, let's talk about this. Let's talk about it. Let's get this out of the way, because a few World War II lovers are going to probably debate this amongst themselves, and that's beautiful and that's fine. And this is obviously what this channel does. Just don't blame me, is all I'm saying. There's always been debate about certain mislabelled variants of pillboxes that get labelled as observation posts. Now, let's just say that this is an observation post. If I had to lay money on it, I'd be very poor, but if I had to lay money on it, I would go with observation post on this. Like I said, there's two separate documents that pertain to this being observation post. However, you could imagine a machine gun up there and pointing away. So let's just say it's probably dual purpose, because it's got beautiful. It's the way that it's slanted. Now, this also leads up to the difference between observation posts and pillboxes. Some people always say that with an observation post, it has to normally not be a small embrasure, because you want small embrasures or gun loops to literally place your gun in and have a good field of fire. However, there are exceptions to that. in pillboxes, and we're talking about pillbox variations, which do look very similar to observation posts. Observation posts, let's just say if you had a battle headquarters, at the top of the battle headquarters you've got a slant, you've got a very thin, normally, viewing platform at the top. And obviously it's quite thin, it's quite narrow. And the idea is obviously just for you to view through. But you also have to have a good view in the first place. What's interesting about this is it is pointing, let me just place you away from this for a second. It is pointing across, not over to the shore, which is also very interesting. So, yeah, it's not pointing outwards, which you'd sort of think of as a viewing observation post. You'd want it to sort of point outwards, but actually it's pointing across. So it's unusual in the way that it is looking. Really, it's the wrong direction. So you can see my car, everybody. My car is pointing out to the sea. This is not. This is pointing across. Again, labelled as an observation post, so let's not. But it also denominates with an observation post that it's slightly slanted and narrow viewing platform, and also it's high up. Quite possible. So I'll put it out there for you. If it's a pillbox, you'll also be expecting, not all the time, please don't have a go at me, not all the time, but you'd expect some sort of extra support for like the mounting of the tripod, for example, etc, etc. We probably won't see that in the other World War I pillbox we're going to have a look at in a minute, so we won't see that necessarily in there. I'm not expecting to anyway. And obviously this is World War I, apparently this is dated to as well, which correlates with the pillbox, which, you know, again, obviously we've done this before. And as I'm looking over, the embrasures, you can't see, the embrasures of the gun loop, or the gun loops, aren't pointing out, and they're not pointing this way, but that is pointing this way. So the gun loops must be pointing out across again from the opposite side. So yeah, that's also very interesting. Because they're not pointing outland, they're pointing inland, and we know that the ones that we checked in World War I that were down the road near Sittingbourne, or Rainham actually, in Kent, they were pointing inwards, and the reason why was because it was meant to cover a field of fire, and we'll talk about that in a minute, the World War I mindset, which we've spoken about before. But again, if you check out the link below for the World War I pillboxes, literally not too far away, you understand why. But yes, okay, so World War I observation post, that's what it's been labelled as two separate sources. Potential, the reason why it's probably been labelled as an observation post is because of the slant, or the embrasure that pertains to. It's quite long and slanted. However, doesn't always necessarily mean that that's a pillbox. That doesn't necessarily always mean that that's an observation post. I've ranted for quite a long time. I'm going to shut up now. But that's cool. We'll just take one more look inside. It's quite pleasing my acrobatic skills, to be fair. But yeah, you can see it's purely made of just complete concrete. So yeah, we know that the Isle of Sheppey had a lot of World War II defences. We don't need to sort of, people who are local, I've documented a fair few things now on the Isle of Sheppey that are World War II. We know that it's an island, it's got to be defended. There's also a couple of pillbox variants here as well on the island. There's also there are a few World War I pillboxes which are interesting because they're also different dimensions. We'll talk about that when we go to that one as well. We've got a lot to talk about when we get to the World War I pillbox. But fascinating. Hopefully you agree that it's an observation post. I mean, yeah, but definitely a platform there, high up. I just don't really imagine that if you've got a machine gun, being high up really is going to help you, because if you've got recoil, you're pretty much going to fall off. So that's my argument for it being an observation post, because of the idea that if you're up there and it's recoil, you're pushing back, you'll fall off that. You kind of need to have your feet placed firmly on the ground like every other pillbox, which again, observation post, if I had to lay money on it. Okay, I think I've said everything. Let's go check the other, well, let's check the definite piece of history out, the World War I pillbox. Come on. walking around, I've noticed a couple of interesting things which have got me slightly excited, even more than I clearly already am, like a silly little history wannabe geek. Let's clarify this. It's definitely World War One. No doubt about it. We can safely say every clue points to that being World War One. Standard World War One pillboxes are square in design, and we also know that we can compare these to definitely confirmed ones, i.e. on my channel as well, and they're exactly the same. So they've got this corrugated design, or moulding, shall we just sort of say, which interestingly enough almost denominates prefab designs during World War II in variations. I'm sounding very geeky all of a sudden. There you go. Sounding like a character off of Only Fools and Horses as well. But what interests me, or got me excited walking around this, was the size of the gun hole. Oh, the loop, which also denominates that there's a dead rabbit in here. Oh, lovely. Oh, hello, mate. I'll just point its little butt there, but it's not. It's dead. So, yeah. There's a little rabbit there, bless it. It's passed away not too long ago. So I realise it starts moving and I'm going to freak out. So, this is what's got me excited, because there is a massive plinth, which I would now assume that, judging by the size of the gun hole, probably would have held something a little bit heavier. And if anything, you've got an interesting piece of wooden framing inside the concrete plinth. So the question then becomes, what type of gun are we looking at? So that's a big old embouchure, that. The ones that we've seen before, again, if you please refer back to the World War I Pillboxes video, either after or before this, they're the standard sort of types. This is definitely for something a little bit heavier. So it's quite possible it could have been a machine gun mounting, and you go onto a mini tripod. So it's like a standard tripod. You place it down and then you've got a good field of fire. That's quite possible, because I just sort of think, for the size that you're in, again, the recoil, the fact of how confined you are in here, you're not talking at something that would denominate like an anti-tank. And again, with World War II, I really don't think that, this is World War One. So let's just put, our sort of vehicles and everything into perspective. I think that it's quite possible this was maybe for a heavy machine gun, or something that could be sitting on that and then pointing outwards. You can also see the corrugated steel above us, which obviously we said before uses mesh. And yeah, World War One definitely. Just definite on this one. This is where people say, oh, is you not? No. Almost certainly is. And the size is tiny. So what I wanted to do is, just in case you've not seen my World War One pillbox video, what is interesting, you've got to try and put your mindset into World War One at the time. And probably no greater example is probably Blackadder Goes Forth, which, although is a comedy by all means, there was a lot of truth in what had been placed in that. Like with all Blackadders, really, obviously one of the greatest comedy series of all time. Judge for yourselves, everybody, that's my opinion, and I'm sticking to it. But yeah, the idea with World War One pillboxes was that the higher ups, let's just say in inverted commas, didn't really like the idea of pillboxes necessarily, because it meant that the troops had a defensive position, and they kind of preferred the soldiers to be out fighting. You got to understand as well, during World War One, again trying to talk in this terminology, the mindset was always to push on, trench warfare. The idea was you find a defensive position, but you always move forward. Which is why when pillboxes were being built in the defence of our country, that they were a little bit, amongst some of the higher ups, a little bit like, well, Hopefully that's only for like a mini stopgap that they can literally defend quickly but keep pushing outwards. So in this case, it's facing, interestingly again, across and not onto the coastal side. So again, the mindset would be, as a field of fire, sort of a cross field of fire really, but to not stay here. You're in, you've placed your equipment in there, you're shooting, you're defending for a short time, but they wanted you to get out. And it was actually interesting to note that when we saw the WW1 Pillboxes not too far away, again, like I said, in Sittingbourne, was that they were quite cleverly, strategically placed. Not WW2 Pillboxes weren't, but WW1 ones were very interesting in the fact of not only their size, their classic square design, although there were different variations of designs. We did see at the end, we saw the circular sort of cylindrical one, but the main design of this square one, Pillbox, really it's, if anything, the idea is that you stay in there for a short term. During World War II, the mindset had slightly changed, which is why you see pillboxes becoming even more variant based, heavier design, thicker. Obviously there was two standards, there was bullet type standard and then there was shell proof standard, and you got lots of variants. The idea was to defend. But again, during World War One, the general consensus was that you were in there, shoot, but keep pushing. You want them away. You want the German threat at the time to be annihilated and pushed on. If you keep pushing back, as I'm walking back, interestingly enough, that gets you closer to London. They didn't want that. You wanted to keep pushing outwards. So it was an interesting mindset, but based on trench warfare, because obviously the trenches, as we know, were just horrendous in many different levels. And I obviously had family who were, most of my family was sort of, I could trace them to World War One, especially cavalry, etc, etc. It was always to move forward, grab the land, push forward, grab, push forward, grab, push forward. And there was no difference between that and pillboxes. You stay in your position pillbox wise, but if you have an opportunity to advance, you don't go backwards. So yeah, and obviously during trench warfare, if you stayed in the trenches, just in case you didn't know, you'd be shot for cowardice. So yeah, so again, the mindset of the World War One soldier, like I said, if we look at the gun hole, beautiful, me and my Kent language, is rather large. I think on this occasion that this was probably for like some sort of heavy machine gun, maybe with a fixed tripod, and probably holding about 2 to 3 soldiers inside. And then you've got a wonderful field of fire, but it's going across. And that's actually a huge field of fire, really. If you're carrying on, by the way, that's to another campsite over there, holiday park. But that's the biggest gun hole recess I've seen. And when you compare it to our observation post, or labelled as an observation post, which is thinner and longer, so you get a more field of fire view as an observation unit, then yeah. The argument also with observation posts, as we sort of mentioned before, and we've talked about this a few times, was that you could obviously use those as defensive anyway. You could obviously place a gun in. Probably one of the classic designs, which I love, was the mushroom pillbox, where it had a 360 degree, this is World War II by the way, 360 degree slitted all the way around, and you had and then you could mount your machine gun and then it could follow you around, but it was completely slitted all the way through. So not a massive gap, but a gap enough that you could see 360 degrees, and they were normally to defend airfields. But yeah, I've really geeked out today, haven't I? I apologise to some of the World War One, World War II specialists out there. I'm trying to, every time on these videos, trying to basically put a point, cross the point that not every single person who's going to see these videos are knowledgeable. Some people are going to be more knowledgeable than me on these, which I totally accept, and some people aren't. And so I always have to try and create a balance to sort of give, in layman's terms, as I always sort of say, a fairly like straightforward answer as best as possible without hopefully not getting history wrong. Either way, it is unique history, and that's really surprised me, that gun hole, because of how wide it is and the fact that you've genuinely got a station in which to place a machine gun. There you go. What a remarkable piece of history. What an incredible review of Flyer as well. Send back the poorly dead rabbit, bless it, but won't show that to everybody just in case. And now used as a campsite for all and everybody to explore. You see my wonderful car there as well. And then our observation post is over there on the corner of the trees, finger of doom just beyond that, and it's pointing again across this way. Well, oh, well. Hopefully you enjoyed that, everybody. No more words of Phoenix history. Thank you so much for coming along with me on this brief excursion out onto the island of Sheppey, a place that I know and love in all manner of different ways. It's a beautiful and incredibly interesting place, especially for its history. Take care, everybody. Feel free to spread the word. The channel really does honestly go a long way, and thank you so much to the owners of the farm for allowing me access to actually document this stuff. It really goes a long way and I really appreciate it. Take care. World War I history at its best, and it will be in the Pillbox playlist as well. If you want to have a look at that as well, there'll be a Pillbox playlist which we've already collated, which talks about different types of pillboxes, their use and their function. There are main things that we talk about on our pillboxes we've done as of recording this, all the standard types, and a fairly good amount of local variants and variants in general. Stay tuned, I'm sure we'll do a few more even after this, so who knows, but hopefully you really enjoyed that. Thank you so much, everybody. Take care. Any more words of Phoenix history, because history matters. Love you, and thank you so much for your support. It goes a really long way. Ready? I think you are. Kapow.